Okay, so today we're diving into something pretty big. Surah An-Nisaa.
Anissa.
Yeah, the women, the fourth chapter in the Quran.
Right.
And it comes
Huh.
right after Surah Al-Imran, so we're kind of continuing that journey.
Hmm.
And this one was revealed in Medina, like sometime between the third and fifth year after the Hijrah.
A really key period.
Huge, right? Like right after the Battle of Uhud.
Exactly, yeah.
So much going on, so many challenges the community was facing, especially when it came to taking care of widows and orphans.
Yeah, a lot of change happening.
And that's kind of what we're going to be looking at today. Like, what are those core life lessons that come out of this surah, those principles about building a just community, a fair society, and, how they can guide us even now.
Absolutely. And it also played such a crucial role in kind of, overturning some of those harmful practices that were around in pre-Islamic Arabia.
Definitely, yeah, like a real turning point.
Huge shift.
So let's jump right in. I mean, the very beginning of the surah, it just hits you with this intense focus on taqwa.
Taqwa, yeah. And it's kind of hard to translate, but think of it like this constant awareness of God. It's like almost like you're always in the presence of someone you deeply respect.
Right, like always being mindful.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
it connects this right away to the idea that we all come from like a single origin. Verse 4.1 says, fear your Lord who created you from one soul, reminding you that essentially you're all connected.
And that idea of shared origin, I mean, it really makes you reconsider how we treat each other, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. It lays the foundation for respect, for dignity, for that universal brotherhood that Islam emphasizes.
And it's so interesting how the surah then goes on to really emphasize justice and fairness in like every aspect of life.
That's pervasive.
It is. Like verse 4.135, it's so powerful. Just stand firm for justice, even if it means going against your own desires, your own family.
And it's not just some abstract concept, right? It's woven into very specific areas like how inheritance should be handled, how business transactions should be conducted. It's about how you treat people in your daily life.
It's really about embodying that principle of justice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's presented as a moral imperative, a reflection of a key attribute of God.
And then there's this really strong stance against shirk.
Yeah, the idea of associating partners with God, like that's a hard no.
It is. Like verses 4.48 and 4.116, they're so clear that this is unforgivable.
And it makes sense, right? Because the idea of Tawhid, the oneness of God, is like the bedrock of Islamic belief. It shapes your entire worldview.
It's about where your ultimate loyalty lies.
Exactly.
And then there's the surah's emphasis on obedience,
Yeah.
right? To God, his messenger, and those in authority, as long as their guidance is in line with divine teachings.
It's like this divinely ordained hierarchy. Verse 4.59 talks about this.
Right, and it kind of provides a framework for maintaining order within the community.
Yeah, and if there are disagreements, the surah stresses the importance of referring back to the Quran and the Sunnah, the Prophet's teachings and practices, to resolve them.
So there's this clear path laid out.
Exactly, a way to navigate those challenges and maintain unity.
But it's not all about rules and regulations, right? There's also this really beautiful emphasis on repentance and God's mercy.
Yeah, verse 4.110 is so reassuring. Allah is oft forgiving, most merciful.
It's a message of hope, isn't it?
It is, but it also highlights the importance of sincere repentance, of genuinely turning away from wrong actions. The Surah makes it clear that just asking for forgiveness at the last minute after a life of, not following those teachings, it's not going to cut it.
It's about that genuine change of heart.
Exactly.
And then we get to this whole section on family and relationships, which is so detailed.
Yeah, it's a big focus.
Verse 4.19, it actually prohibits inheriting women against their will.
Can you imagine?
It's wild to think about, but it shows how much emphasis is placed on treating women with respect, even if there might be some personal dislike or tension.
And it emphasizes patience in those situations.
Then in verse 4.34, it talks about roles within marriage, with men as protectors and maintainers, and righteous women as, fulfilling their responsibilities within that partnership.
And it lays out this process for dealing with marital discord, always with the goal of reconciliation.
It's all about, like, working through things, right?
Yeah, and it emphasizes that marriage is meant to be a partnership built on mutual rights and responsibilities.
So it's not just this one-sided thing.
Not at all.
And then there's the verse about polygamy, verse 4.3, which allows up to 4 wives.
But with a massive caveat.
Oh, huge. Like, absolute fairness is the condition, especially if there are orphans involved.
Yeah, it was really tied to the social context of the time, ensuring that vulnerable individuals were cared for.
Like a way of providing for those who might otherwise be left without support.
Exactly. And if you couldn't ensure that justice, then the surah is very clear, marry only one.
So it's not this like free-for-all that some people might think.
Not at all. It's very specific and conditional.
Then you get into this whole detailed section on inheritance laws in verses 7 through 14.
It gets really specific, laying out shares for different relatives, male and female.
It's fascinating how detailed it gets.
Yeah, and this was a huge shift, ensuring financial fairness within families, preventing the powerful from, just cutting out women or other relatives from their rightful inheritance.
Right, like specifying shares for daughters and for parents, it really recognizes their financial independence.
On their security.
And then there's the strong emphasis on protecting the rights of orphans in verses like 4.2, 4.6, and 4.10.
Yeah, guardians are told to give orphans their property when they reach maturity, and there are these really stern warnings against taking advantage of their wealth.
It's like messing with orphans is like the worst thing you could do.
It's a major sin, yeah, and it shows this deep concern for the well-being of the most vulnerable members of society.
It's about making sure they're protected and their future is secure.
Absolutely.
And then there's verse 4.35, which provides guidance on how to handle marital disputes, suggesting this process of arbitration, bringing in people from both families to try and reconcile the couple.
Again, it's all about trying to preserve the family unit and find a peaceful resolution.
And it highlights the importance of community involvement, right? Like, it's not just a private matter between the couple.
Yeah, there's a sense that the community has a stake in this.
And then there's this whole section on social ethics in verse 4.36, telling you to be good to your parents, your relatives, orphans, the needy, neighbors, even strangers.
It's really comprehensive.
It is, but it also condemns negative behaviors like arrogance, stinginess, those things that can really damage social harmony.
Verses 36 and 37 are very clear about that.
And verse 4.29 prohibits taking other people's wealth unjustly, emphasizing the importance of fairness and mutual consent in business dealings.
It's all about ethical conduct, even in your financial affairs.
And the surah also advises caution when dealing with those who might not have good intentions, those who might try to deceive or take advantage.
It's about being discerning in your interactions.
And then it circles back to that idea of justice, right?
Yeah.
Verse 4.58 stresses the importance of honesty, of fulfilling your obligations. And verse 4.135 reiterates the need to stand firm for justice, even if it means going against yourself.
It's a powerful reminder.
It is, and then it briefly touches on the principles of warfare in verses 74 to 76, permitting fighting to protect the oppressed, but always emphasizing the preference for peaceful solutions.
It's about defending those who are vulnerable, but always seeking peace whenever possible.
So if we look at it all together, what are the big takeaways from Surah An-Nisaa?
It's like this incredibly comprehensive ethical framework.
Yeah.
Right? It's about building a just and compassionate society, starting with the individual, extended to the family, and then to the wider community.
It's about weaving those principles into every aspect of life. And even though these teachings were revealed so long ago, they feel incredibly relevant to, the problems we face today, especially when it comes to fairness, justice, how we treat each other.
Yeah, the message is timeless.
It really is. And it makes you think, right? With all the emphasis Surah An-Nisaa places on family and social structures, how does that challenge some of our modern individualistic ideas?
That's a really interesting point.
It is. What can we learn from that emphasis on collective well-being, on the rights and responsibilities that come with living in a divinely ordained system?
It's definitely something to reflect on.
It is, and I think that's a good place to leave it for today.
I agree. Lots to think about.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It was a pleasure.
And we'll see you next time.
See you then.